All right, I welcome you to our press conference for the storm that's about to hit us in the Southern California for the city of Glendora. Let me start off. My name is Chris Jeffers, Jeffers, the city manager for the city of Glendora. Also joining us today is our police chief, Tim Staub. Also, Assistant District Fire Management Officer, Loring Buchwald of the Forest Service. LA County Deputy Fire Chief Steve Martin, Ben Wong, Regional Public Affairs Manager for Southern California Edison, and if there's somebody else that comes up, we'll announce them later. Right now we stand at orange alert, and orange alert for the city of Glendora is voluntary evacuations. That process happened around 10:30 this morning. It activated our evacuation center at the Teen Center, which is at 241 West Dawson Avenue. At this point, we don't have anybody availing themselves of that service. We are also, it also activated no parking on streets to keep the streets clear from that standpoint. Los Angeles County Department of Public Works flood control reports that their basins are now have dropped from the 30 to 35% filled rate to about 20 to 25%. They have been actively over the last 2.5 days hauling out debris as much as they can. Those operations will cease very soon as they start to button up and prepare for tonight's rain when it does arrive. U.S. National Weather Service has been in contact with us all throughout the day to report the latest forecasts. At this time, they are indicating that light rain should start falling sometime around 8 p.m. tonight in our general area and continue through the night. Nothing major as far as intensity. The main band of rain is going to hit us approximately around 3 or 4 a.m. Friday morning, and is expected to last anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. So that would put it around 7 to 8 a.m. Also on Friday morning. They have indicated that that is going to be a very intense rain. Coupling with that is going to be high winds, up to 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, which is going to add another dimension for us to prepare for possible trees coming down and also getting entangled with electrical wires as we go through that. So it's a new element for us this year to worry about as we prepare ourselves and our community from that. After about 8 a.m., the Weather Service says we're going to have a break in the storm of about 4 to 6 hours. Starting around noon, 1 p.m. Friday, there'll be another band that comes in. Not as intense as the earlier one I talked about starting at 3, but it will carry moderate rains, maybe some intensity of rains periodically. It'll have hail. It will be the colder weather coming through, which they indicate is ripe for thunderstorms. And for those that have been at these discussions prior, thunderstorms are particularly worrisome to us is because that's where the intensity really happens. We look back to the end of November where we had an unpredicted thunderstorm come in for about 45 minutes, downpour about 3/4 of an inch of rain in that time, and we had considerable mud and debris flow through our community. So that's the one we're going to keep our eyes on also as we go through that. The rains will continue through the afternoon and start tapering off as the night comes through from that standpoint. Saturday morning is supposed to be just cold. There's a 10 to 20% chance of rain, but their Weather Service is not reporting any worry at that point from that. On the horizon from us, Monday or Tuesday, they're looking at a possible another storm arriving into the area, which we'll have to reevaluate as we get closer to that time period. Our EOC operations will start up at 6 p.m. tonight and will be maintained till 6 p.m. Friday at least. Depending on how we come through the storm in the morning, we'll reevaluate whether we need to extend those operations further into it. But right now, it'll be that 24-hour period for us. With that, I'd like to ask our police chief, Tim Staub, to come up and report on police operations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tonight at 10 p.m., we expect to go to red alert level, which means hard closures. We're going to notify our residents beforehand, let them know that we recommend evacuations and that evacuations are mandatory. Doesn't mean we're going to go into their residences or force them to leave, but we're going to strongly advise that for their safety, they should leave their residence. There's nothing they can do. Once the rains come and the mud starts to flow, there's nothing residents can do. If they're in their homes and they choose not to leave, they need to stay in place, called shelter in place. And so our hard closures are going to be basically the footprint of the Colby Fire Impact Area along Sierra Madre to the north, from the west border along the city of Azusa, and to the east to Lorain. We've slightly modified it where there's going to be a section that is going to still remain open. Basically, anything east of Live Oak and south of Palm will be, those residents will not be under the hard closure. So tonight we will have officers posted at the entrance to the neighborhoods leading into the Colby Fire Impact Area, and we're going to, once people leave, they won't be allowed to return until the danger is past. Nothing is more important than the safety of our residents, and we know that we've been told that it's not an if the rain's going to come. The rain is going to come. It's going to come around 3 or 4 a.m. It's going to hit really hard for about 4 hours, as the city manager said, and that's the time that really concerns us. And so for the safety of our residents, we recommend that they find someplace else to stay tonight. Again, starting at 10 p.m. tonight, we will go to red alert. Mandatory evacuations will be in place for those affected in the Colby Fire Impact Area.
Thank you, Chief. Now I'd like to call up Deputy Fire Chief Steve Martin for the LA County Fire.
Thank you, Chris. Well, welcome back. Here we are again for those that were here a week or so ago. And as the city manager has mentioned, last month we had a storm that was nowhere near predicted to be this intense in this short period of time. And that's what concerns us most, because we had a lot of mud flow come down at that time. I always want to thank our partners here, specifically the City of Glendora and their EOC, for putting together the unified command with all of us together. Again, we've had practice from last year after the Colby fire, and then again this year. So hopefully our resources are deployed in the places that we really want them, and we know that we're going to need them. As far as Los Angeles County Fire Department is concerned, we have, besides the rain and besides the mud and debris flow, we do have a concern because, as the chief mentioned, this storm is supposed to be very intense with a lot of winds involved with it. And since the ground is already saturated, the high winds is this, which could be up in excess of 60 miles an hour, can cause a lot of downed trees, a lot of downed wires, which again, that will impede folks from getting out of the areas if the mud does start to flow. So again, that's one of our big concerns. The fire department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, again has ramped up our personnel for this event. We have swiftwater teams that are available. We are in what we call a Mode 2, Type 2 for this event, and that brings extra patrols, which are the smaller fire engines, which could make it up these roads here. Those patrols are going to be in those areas with specific instructions of what to look for. And to report in case the mud does start to flow and what we know of residents that are left behind. We have our USAR teams that are available, and again, we have all of our normal fire crews that are available 24/7 that'll be here. As we've stated in the past, the situation with mud flow and debris flow is different than a fire. There's nothing we can do once that mud starts to flow. We cannot get to you until it stops. If folks decide to shelter in place, it may be a while before we can get to you, because again, the roads will have to be cleared. Public Works has their heavy equipment that'll be here to assist with that. And we have our own LA County Fire Department heavy equipment, tractors, dozers as such, but that will be mainly for extraction of those people who have stayed behind and will need rescuing if that's the case. Again, with downed wires and downed trees, this could make this even more complicated than in the past storms. We haven't had this intensity in the wind. But again, LA County is here, and the one thing that we always do ask is to please, for the residents, pay attention to what the city officials are telling you. They know what they're doing. When they go to red alert, again, they would like the folks to evacuate. We understand it's difficult leaving your house. You don't know when you might be let back into your home. But it is important because especially some of these homes that have been identified, and what the city manager hasn't mentioned is that he actually went out on foot today, door to door, to many of these houses to tell these residents that are in specifically precarious places that when the rains come and the mud comes down, they will be at high risk. And to please, like you said, just for the safety of them, that's what this is all about. This is about the safety of the residents of the cities and the foothills. To please heed, if you can leave, you have a place to stay for the night, the shelters will be open. If you have friends or family that can put you up, let the storm pass, let us make sure everything is safe, and then we can repopulate and get you back in. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Next, for the Forest Service, I'd like to ask Assistant District Fire Management Officer Lauren Buckwell.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to say thank you to Chris Jeffers for allowing the Forest Service to come in and talk a little bit about our area. Just so you folks know, we are in unified command with LA County and the City of Glendora. We have engines, crews, and dozers ready to respond and assist LA County and the City of Glendora with any incidents that may happen. I want to let you know about some closures that we have going on in the forest so everybody knows about them. Out of an abundance of care, we've closed Manker Campground for the season, which is on Mount Baldy. We've closed Colbert Campground on Highway 39, as well as Crystal Lake. Those will remain closed at least through Friday, with possible reopening on Saturday after we do a storm evaluation. I was just informed that Lake Hughes Road will be closed as well. There's potential runoff and flooding from the powerhouse fire earlier in the year. Also, Caltrans has advised us there's a possibility State Highway 2 may be closed if the snow gets too deep and they can't keep up with it. For the safety of the forest visitors coming up, I want to remind folks the snow level could drop 4,000 to 5,000 feet overnight. Make sure you bring your snow chains with you. Bring extra food, bring blankets and extra clothing. You may get stranded. Car breaks down, we may not be able to get to you. Be prepared for that overnight stay. It's very important and critical. Glendora Mountain Road, if you're familiar with that area, will remain barricaded closed to through traffic. It will stay open for evacuation routes for folks from Camp Williams and residents of the canyon. So that is an alternate evacuation route if needed if State Highway 39 is closed. Glendora Ridge Road between Mount Baldy and Horse Canyon Saddle, where it intersects Glendora Mountain Road, is a hard closure. Those gates are closed. LA County Road Department has said they will probably reopen on Friday into Saturday. So we'll let you know on that. Just some basic safety. The intensity of the rainfall that we're expecting is very similar to what we saw in August. If you recall, then we had flash floods. We had a fatality up on Mount Baldy. I want to encourage everyone to stay away from the streams. It's not the time to go fishing. It's not the time to go rock hopping. Stay away from the streams. It may not be raining where you are, but upstream it could be 3 to 4 inches an hour coming down, and those flash floods will catch you. So please stay away from the streams. Watch your children. Keep them away from the flood control channels here in the city. And Saturday is going to be a beautiful day. That's a great time to come visit the National Monument and the forest. So I suggest if you're going to come visit us, put it off till later in the week. One of the other concerns, if you have a need to be up here in the forest and monument, please do your business. Be aware of falling rocks. We had a vehicle hit last week with those other rains, took out the passenger side door. Rocks do come off the hill. Caltrans does a great job of keeping the road clear, but those rocks fall from above. You may not see those. So be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Ben Wong is here from the Southern California Edison to answer any questions we may have at the other point. Just to wrap up, again, I want to emphasize that we are going to red alert at 10 p.m. The reason we're pre-announcing it is we realize that people are coming home from work, maybe finishing up last minutes. This is an opportunity for them to gather their thoughts, gather the necessary items, clothing, medicines, important documents, whatever it may be, pack that up and leave in an orderly fashion before 10 p.m. It's really important that we want to urge people to heed our advice. As Chief Staub said, our primary mission is really pretty simple: protection of life and property, life being the first. And we just do not want to send into a situation where we may find somebody injured or worse should one of these hillsides come down and somebody become injured. So it's very important for us to reemphasize that. We're urging that information through you, the media. Will be social media venues also doing that, but it's important for our residents to pay attention to that. Also, I can't reemphasize enough, as the Chief said, these are hard closures. So once you leave, you're not getting back in after 10 p.m. It's important why, as most of these roads were going to become potentially impassable either from the flow of water or debris and mud that was going to accumulate at critical points. And I think, as Deputy Chief Steve Martin has said in the past, back in February, March, some of our busiest activity was certainly not rescuing people in homes. It was extricating people from cars that tried to pass through our intersections. And so you may think it's safe, the flow isn't high or the mud isn't that bad, but as you've seen over and over in these situations, it is, and you're going to get stuck, and that's where we're going to have to work our magic from that standpoint. I also want to announce that our Community Services Department, as part of their task, is through our Nixle program, we have identified 66 households that we call special needs. These are people that may be physically impaired to some degree, have other issues where they have asked us to do special checks on them to make sure that they're in a position to either leave on their own, or they've got family or friends to do that, and so forth. So Community Services has completed our phone calls to all 66 homes this morning. At this time, it doesn't look like we'll be called upon to help transport anybody, but if anybody is transported, they will be taken to our teen center, and family or friends can visit them or pick them up at that point. That'll be our evacuation point from that standpoint. At this time, we still have about 15,000 sandbags at our city yard, and that's 440 South Lorraine Avenue, that residents can still avail themselves. The city yard is going to be open 24 hours, so there'll be sandbags there for people to pick up. Again, we advise people probably around 3 a.m. is not a good time to start picking up sandbags to try to do anything. But try to get them beforehand, especially before it's dark, because you just don't normally want to be up on a hillside around your yard when it's dark trying to do stuff from that standpoint. We've given away, we've distributed today about 2,000 sandbags. It doesn't sound like a lot given the amounts that we've given in the past. To date, since February, March, we've given out almost 90,000 sandbags to our community. That's like, if you stretch them end to end, that's like from here to the city of Alhambra, just to give you an idea. A lot of sandbags. Also, we have laid, as you know before, we've laid about 1.8 miles of K-rails through our community to help direct the flow into the streets where we want the flow. We want it off properties and in the streets because that's a place that we can clean up, and it makes it much easier from that standpoint. From that standpoint, the Chief Martin talked about his deployment. I know LA County Department of Public Works is going to have 2 roving crews themselves through the night. They will also be pre-stationing some equipment up on Grand and Palm, along with at Sierra Madre and Goddard Middle School to handle the Inglewild flood control channel. We will also have 3 crews roving ourselves from our Public Works and Community Services departments combined. Their goal is to, again, be our eyes and ears, to see what's happening out there during the dark, to work on some of our key storm drains to make sure that they keep unplugged so that water can flow as they're designed to handle from that standpoint. From that standpoint, that's about all we have. I think we'd be happy.